And the CTA announces some changes after last week's Blue Line problem.
It appears that a train was not the only thing that broke down last Tuesday during the morning rush hour.
City officials say there was also a big communication breakdown as passengers began to walk through the subway tunnels after sitting on idle trains. ABC 7's Paul Meinke is live at CTA headquarters with more on this. Paul?
Sylvia, first of all, we learned specifically what happened mechanically on the first train that had the problem. There was a short circuit in its propulsion system on one car, and usually that's something they can work around. You just go to another car, fire it up, and everything's fine. That didn't happen in this case. It was kind of like a string of Christmas tree lights. One light goes out, and then the whole thing goes out, and that's what happened with one problem cascading into another. And then in the aftermath, what failed, there rises to the top two different situations. First of all, the CTA acknowledges that passengers on those four trains in the subway did not get the communication that they needed. And secondly, and perhaps more serious, the Office of Emergency Management and Communications was not informed until an hour had passed after the start of the incident.
It started at 8:10. Was disabled, the CTA Blue Line. OEMC was notified at 9:09, almost 9:10, an hour later. That is unacceptable from any passenger riding in the subway. That's unacceptable. And there's where the issue is.
The mayor said this morning that he's not blaming anyone, but there were clear failures that have to be corrected. When the fire department, which has been practicing subway emergency response, doesn't get called for an hour, and there are already passengers walking in the subway when there's a hot third rail, that's a real problem. The CTA acknowledges that was a breakdown, and it will now call the OEMC, and therefore the fire department, immediately whenever there is a train failure on the subway, so that the fire department is at least immediately prepared to respond. The CTA also says it needs to communicate much more efficiently with its passengers. Many of them grew weary of just sitting there last week. Some felt ill, and there was a lot of anxiety. And when they didn't get fresh, timely information, some of them self-evacuated. The CTA says it will equip its train operators with cell phones so that they'll be better equipped to talk to their control center and supervisors. Last week, the radio traffic was so thick nobody could hear anything. In theory, that will allow the train operators to more often update their passengers. And the plan is, if what happened last week repeats itself, CTA personnel, perhaps with portable loudspeakers, and firefighters with the same, will get into the tunnel pronto.
The human element is just talking. It's getting our train operators on the PA system, explaining very, very clearly what's going on. The one takeaway from this is obviously the human element can never be ignored. And so it is a big focus for the CTA. It's something that we're going to triple our efforts on and ensure that we get right.
So there's going to be a lot of retraining, a special emphasis placed on this situation were it to arise again. The Transit Workers Union say they think the best solution is to put conductors back on the trains, at least on an interim basis in the subways. The CTA says it's not going to revisit that issue. It's a non-starter. Live at CTA headquarters, Paul Meinke, ABC 7 News. Sylvia?
Okay, thank you, Paul. It has been 6 weeks since the last primary.